But July 4th was the culmination of events that had been occurring for more than a decade before, July 4, 1776. And as you know, I've been one of the leading proponents of the articles of the Article 5 and the Convention of States, where the states, through their legislatures, delegates would meet to review what's taking place in the federal government and propose changes to address the rewriting of the Constitution by the Supreme Court and other instrumentalities of the federal government. Remember, the states created the federal government, and the federal government had certain specific and limited responsibilities, but that's not the case anymore. And so the framers of the Constitution and the ratifiers, they decided that there would be a provision in our Constitution under Article 5 where the Constitution could be amended should Congress and the other elements of the federal government become oppressive, the word that George Mason used. And in many ways, they have become oppressive. They have become much stronger, much broader than ever intended as a result of the importation of an ideology that is hostile to our founding principles. So what do we do about that? We had a few calls last night, as I do often, asking, Mark, where do we go with this? Where are we headed? How do we save our republic? And I wrote an entire book on this called The Liberty Amendments. Remember the Albany Congress and the Stamp Act Congress and the First Continental Congress and the Second Continental Congress? How the colonies and then the states would meet to discuss what was taking place in the country, how to make it better. Well, those geniuses who met in Philadelphia after the Revolutionary War to replace the Articles of Confederation with an actual constitution, they put a provision in their constitution under Article 5 that provides two ways to amend the Constitution. One, through Congress, 2/3 of both houses proposing amendments to the states, 3/4 of the states, or now 38 states, having to ratify. And 2 days before the end of the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, George Mason stood up, a delegate from Virginia, genius, brilliant, and he said, if Congress shall turn oppressive, the only way to reform what's taking place is through violence. We must give the people the power to address a tyrannical Congress, or in this case, a tyrannical federal government. And they set forth the process in the Constitution. And the legitimate constitutional way is through the state legislatures. 34 state legislatures coming up with virtually identical resolutions when it comes to the issues they want to discuss, calling for a meeting, a convention of the states, where they meet, they discuss what they want to do to get the original Constitution back, which has been rewritten by the Politburo that we now call the Supreme Court, which still would require the same ratification process, 38 states, 3/4 of the state legislatures, either by the legislatures or convention. So there's no potential whatsoever for a runaway convention, since the states are in charge from beginning to end. This is how you address what's taking place in this country. It's certainly not going to happen tomorrow. Certainly not going to happen next year. But if it doesn't happen, I'm telling you, in 50 years, your children will not recognize this country. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The question facing us and facing our fellow countrymen is a two-word question. Very simply, who decides? The American founders had a simple answer. We, the people, decide.